Good morning, everyone. Respected chairpersons, teachers, and all my dear friends and students of political science. Firstly, thanks my professor Dr. Rajnikant Pandey sir that he gave me a golden opportunity. And you all are welcome to our this seminar. Uh, I am so happy to see you all together. Myself, Swati Priya, I am a student of Political Science, UG second semester. So today I deliver to book review, book named "We the People and Our Constitutions," written by Nina Chandhu and based on our ideas of Indian constitutions. A people logbook of place and dream. The seconds of 200 years as slave in 1947, the people choose the draw of the blueprint of the kind of country free India would be. The India people resolved proudly that they would write their own destiny. When Second World War that time over, world under the completely still rebuilding and healing from the devastation Second World War 1939 to 45. The people of world were learning from the genetics the danger of the what happened in country if a minority. India struggled for freedom. The colony government put throw for years into prisons people who realized or fought against their rule. Some were vanished for the lifetime for the distant Andaman Island. Even those committed to the peaceful, non-violent resistance. As the bullet of Gandhi signed not, everyone shared the vision for the people. The condition, a dream, a set of promises. India from one of the wealthiest to the one of the poorest country of the world. For millions, the cruel system of caste had made life living well for those unfortunately even to the born into the disadvantaged caste and would the country minority religious caste tribal and the gender be protected. If is a dream, a vision, a set of promises, a guarantee, a state house of the aspirations. It is the collective imaginations of the destination which the country plays to the rich. The preamble. Every religion has the holy book and prayer. Some people say that for the people of India, our holy book is our constitutions and our prayer the preamble. Preamble is the soul of the constitutions. It contains within the whole as the nation is built and the later generations. A sovereign democratic republic, the preamble first talk of the kind of country like will be India, sovereign, socialist, democratic republic. Every person have the exactly equal political power, one person, one vote. Women had to fight long for an equal right to vote, but after a long time, give the right to vote in the United States of America. For the instance, women got the right to vote only in 1920 and American only in the 1965. Australia did not get the right to vote until 1962. But the India, the idea of the universal suffrage. Many people had the fear that Indians were not ready for this radical system, not voting right for all people, called the universal adult franchise. Less than one in the five people were even the lifetime the time independence. Among women there were less than 1 in 10. Their collective destination for the society would not allow to lower caste to step inside life with dignity for a society that would not allow some women even the chance to vote, own land, let alone to own an inherent property. And the work should to the soldier with the man for this society to resolve to ensure the same and equal right to vote for the road was truly beginning to the great adventure of the building a new nation, India, under the first time election conducted in 1951. Socialist and secular. Socialist. India is a democratic country with the concept of welfare state, that the government must be committed to ensuring a distinct standard of living for all its citizens. It must protect them from hunger and the jobless to ensure equal after affordable education, health care, housing, decent work and social protections to all. It means consist the state research to the prevent the constitutions of being in a few hands. Secular. India has a positive form of secularism in which the state recognizes the equality in all religions but does not have an official language. Religious government will have no religious and it will neither practices nor the permit nor any the particular religious. It will not discriminate in any way between people on the base of the religious whether where they from the teeny minority of people number not the more than a few hundred people following their the traditional faith or those who the follow the religious of the largest majority of the people. Of course, if the normal rules contradict the morality of the constitutions, it is the constitutional morality that the must prevail on and the individual's religious belief. Justice, it means fairness. Liberty, it means freedom. The right to the dissent, many must also carry the freedom from the fear, the essence. Equality, it means ensure equality of opportunity. It means that the at least some degree government must ensure more equal conditions of the life to the those who are the more disadvantaged. And by the reservations or affirmative action which recognize that people who have for century been unequal need special support in education and job for the achieve real equality in conditions of their lives. Fraternity. Fraternity in English means the brotherhood. Hindi vision bandhuta derived from the Sanskrit. This means the idea that we observe to the and with the each other. Dr. Ambedkar rightly said that the most important idea in the constitutions is the idea of fraternity. Reality, a country still for the distance from the India we promised ourselves in our constitutions. Every person in this country continue to hold the power to choose her government. Why we need the Indian constitutions? We are aware that the French empowered as human being and as a citizens. To put it simply, it gives us agency. Upper caste group have prevailed that the so-called the lower caste and exercising their the franchise solely on the ground of the caste and class. Dalit woman is the preempt from the casting her vote in the general elections, her constitutional right vote at promised under the Article 326. Note, that the judge as if has granted her the right, the relevant promises of the Constitution has protected the right of our fellow citizens against musculars and the unwarranted aggressions of the upper caste classmen elections day. This is the power of the constitutions. It gives us an agency and therefore a sense of self-respect. The nations of agency refers to the ability to and the lives, the way to the we want to drive by our goal and our ambitions. At the heart of every modern democracy lies a Bill of Rights 1689, which served to limit the power of the state and our the status as people who count and the count equally. Citizens must come together to this end for the simple reason that they own the constitutions. The the moment we recognize that we own the constitutions, our perceptions change with the people should stand with each other to defend it against everyone who treated to the dispenses with the or rewrite it ill. Thus, sentiment with the enable us to stand together is the solidarity and fraternity. What we must not forget is that the constitutions of India is the product of the legislations and judiciary interpretations, but also of a mass struggle. Should this solidarity just as important, it was India who actually wrote the constitutions, while the constitutions of the former British colony were written by Constituent Assembly. This the unlimited had to be approved by the British colony power. There became independent. This was particularly the case African country that joined the British Commonwealth, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. There the constitutions were granted them the independence. Belgium of the officially granted them the independence. Their constitutions path toward independence and the play and the important role in the constitutions of former Belgium, Congo. The constitutions of Asian country were the partially written by the British and the appoints. The constitutions of Malaysia, for example, was the drafted by the community that was the appointed of the British Crown and the chair the British jurist Lord. There was the no constitutions assembly set up in the country. Sir Henry, a lawyer and the academic particularly drafted the constitutions of Sri Lanka. Our constitutions was not written by the colony power. In effect, the demand that the Indians should write their own constitutions came up fairly early in the freedom struggle. Making of the constitutions by the leader of the freedom struggle, the genius of the constitutions, in document that the date back to 1895 and that is the should be written by Indians in a constitutions assembly elected on the principle of universal adult franchise. First in multi-religious society, the principle of secularism that all are entitled to be treated as equally by the state. A hungry person cannot be free persons. Hunger and the main cause property prevent the citizens from realizing or even conceptuals to the good life. Secularism, equal freedom and social monuments to the my mind from the core of democracy. The making of the constitutions. A constitution is a set of rules written or unwritten accepted to all the people living together in a country. It is the supreme legislature that govern now the resident of territory interact with one another and how they interacted the government. The soul of the constitutions is the unique imprinted of the mass movement. Per Swaraj without is we would not have had the preamble, part 3 and part 4 in their the present form. Every significant of the political initiative event is the outcome of the multiple standard of the history. Nothing comes of the nothing say here to his first act Shakespeare kills the leisure. Dr. Ambedkar, the chairman of the drafting committee of the constitutions, acknowledged as much. In 1934, M.N. Roy pioneered the communist movement in India, proposed the idea of the Constituent Assembly for India. The preamble to our constitutions is sought through by a strong and vibrant political community to the objective of freedom struggle, freedom and justice, equality and fraternity. Cabinet Mission Plan in 1946. 1895, the drafted constitutions of bill come to the attention of the political public. No one seemed to the knowledge we would author the bill through the elevation believed that the Lokmanya Tilak had drafted it. In the Indian National Congress, which was established in 1885, the concentrate on the politics of the petitions made till the second decade of the 20th century. Commonwealth of the India Bill 1925. In May 1925, the bill was sent Graham Poll, who was a friend of Annie Besant and the influential member of the Labour Party and the Secretariat of the British Committee on Indian Affairs. In England, the bill, the title, A Bill of Constitutions within the British Empire, a Commonwealth of India, was carefully revised by Labour Party Henry Leisure and Arthur Hansons. The Madras sessions of the Indian National Congress in 1927. The party decided to draft a constitution. All power of government and all authority, legislative, executive and judiciary are derived from the people. The Constitution's scholar who has authored two definition book on the Indian Constitution suggested that the right granted by the Nehru Report were a clause to the fundamental right chapter of the Constitutions. The Constitutions granted of the universal phrase, therefore the protected political right of the marginalized. Note, universal adult franchise was not invented in the Constitutional Assembly set up in the 1946. The right to equality before the law was another important right, particularly for a supreme unequality society. In March 1933, the British government issued a white paper containing proposal for a constitutional reform in India. Government of the India 1935 and 1934, the INC demanded that the colonial government, the only way the which appeared in the horizon of the 19 November 1939, Gandhi wrote that the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has compelled me to study any other things, the implications of the Constitution parliamentary debate around at the involved 2000 speeches. By a resolution adopted on the 25 June 1946, the Congress accepted the Cabinet Mission Plan. On 2nd September 1946, an interim government was formed with Jawaharlal Nehru as the Vice President of the Executive Council. Election to the 296th seat of the Constitution's Assembly were held in July 1946. The Congress secured a majority. जवाहरलाल नेहरू, भीमराव अंबेडकर, गोविंद वल्लभ पंत, रफी अहमद किरवानी, C. Gopalachari and others among members nominated by Congress were Frank resigned nominated by the Congress. Frank represented the Anglo-Indian. Syama Prasad Mukherjee, the President of All India Depressed Class League and the President of All Indian Women Congress. We have big things to face, big things to stay and big things to do. This is the argument for the strong central government. The challenge before the democratic state was to secure justice for this group. The Assembly opted the redistributed justice and affirmations action on the one hand and the majority might on the other. The contributions in other words adopted the nations of equality that the taking into account background inequality provide a special measure for the disadvantaged group. This was wise move since these groups are often subjected to economic depressions because they are the socially discriminations against. The constitutions, democracies and our political community. All constitutions from a bridge between the world of procedure, politics regulated by law and political community. Reproduce itself independently of the legal provisions of the constitutions of the language of right. This is the power and the even right. Democracy, constitutionalism, federal if the does not care about others. Non-democratic and democratic constitutions. This meaning of the democracy was out in the famous given by the great Athens statesman. The history of the war between the city-state of the Athens and Sparta by the historians. Democracy was the born in Athens. Demos is the after all a Greek word. United States of America. The constitutions written the convention in 1787. The French Revolutions 1789 formed in the preamble to the constitutions in Act 1791. By the middle of the 20th century, the arrival of newly decolonized state on the constitution making the post-colony world look to the India which adopted its democratic constitutions in 1950. This was the fact that the country did not meet the requirement set by the Western for the democracy, literacy, a middle set of the Western theorists for the democracy, class, economics, well-being culture and the civic culture. Motilal Nehru Constitutions drafted, written by the leader of the freedom struggle in 1928. Universal adult franchises, equality of vote does not lead equality vote. The latter prosperity had the control through the of the procedure that the govern the exercise of power, division of power, check and balance, the rule of law, independent judiciary, a free media and vibrant civil society that keep on the government. our perceptions constitutions. The distinct unique character of the Indian constitution is that it is the perceived and it is the regulator. It is because industrialized the idea of the democracy. Elections are essentially for democracy, yet they are the but a movement in the life of a democratic country. It is through a supportive Supreme Court which interpretations, constitutions, creativity that we see how the democracy is much more than election. Democracy impose and obligations on elected government to secure to citizens their right. Our regulator constitutions. The second except of the constitutions is that it is the regulator. It is the regulates formulations, implementations and of the policy. Democracies have little relationship with the outcomes. Democracies in the other word has to be regulated by democratic constitutions. In the Constitution's Assembly 25 November 1948, Dr. Ambedkar considered that we only the maintain democracies. Our constitutions embody the idea of the rule of law. The rule of law protects people for decision making. Revolutions translates into the rule of law and not rule of the law based on upon perceives the supremacy of law, equality before law and the legal spirits. India adopted the rule of law from the common law system which formed the foundations of British system of jurisprudence. In a significant sense, the power of judicial review implementations the value embodied in the preamble, the fundamental right chapter and the particularly in Article 14, 21 and Article 19. The constitutions as a social contract and foreign of the political community. The people of India having given reply to the authority ruling dispensations in the past. During the emergency in 1975, civil liberty were suspended. The main lesson we learned from the Hobbes is that the state for its people, not the other way round, the state does not provide the preconditions of well-being to it. The people having the right on the obligations to obey law. If the India constitutions as the manifestations of the social contract established a relationship between the citizens and the state. Yet the marker of the constitutions were aware the law alone could not consolidate a political community. Only when people tied together by the network of mutual obligations could the trauma of the partitions and the people related to each other on the basis of solidarity. Since the fraternity is gender species, let us the gender neutral term solidarity that the special obligations we have toward our fellow citizens. Solidarity is the political vital data of the value. It allowed us to move from the selfishness to the recognized to of the our connected with other through the wave reciprocal obligations. The decent charms of secularism and minority right. The precedent for the tolerance, pluralism and secularism had laid in the 1920s. The religious divide by the interpreting every clause as the in the 1928 when the all party conference set out to create a draft constitutions leader appealed to the Muslim League. join the effort, the legal agreed to join only if the Constitution's draft provide for the separate electorate. The first assurance was the coded in the clause 11 of the sections of the fundamental right of the Motilal Nehru drafted. The principle of separations of religious and politics was the approaches European country had adopted. According to clause number 13 of the drafted, no person shall by the reason of his religious caste or creed be preserved in the any way if the regarded to public employment, office of power, honor, or the exercise of any trade and calling. In the shadow of the 1931 Kanpur wrote the Congress drafted the law crafty resolutions on the fundamental right, adopt the principle of the state naturality in our daily affairs. Dr. Ambedkar, Bombay Journal, in the reply to the observation focused on the implications of the term socialist, but the completely ignored the suggestions that the secularism should be industrialist governed principles of democracy. Jawaharlal Nehru, I hope a narrow nationalism living in on sale but rather to the learned creativity nationalism. Religious and caste are vital aspects of our polity and it is not possible to completely separate them from politics, they argued. One, secularism is the part of basic structures of the constitutions and therefore cannot be divided or the amended. 2. Secularism is the drive from the Hindu principles to the tolerance or sham drama. It there ensure the equality of religions. 3. The quote of the Nehru opinion that no, the religious should be at the risks in a secular India because the government will not be allied to the religious. 4. There is an essential connections between secularism 4 and the democracies. The concept of secular state essentially for the working of the democracy and the realization of social and economic need that the essential for material and the moral perspectives and the political justice. Secularism contributions to the normative principles, but it is not a stand-alone concept. It is part of the democratic imaginations. If Article 40 establishes equality between citizens, secularism establishes equality between religious and group. Redistributions and the constitutions. The Oxfam Inequality Report showed that 5% of the India's on 60% of the country wealth, whereas the bottom 50% of the populations on only 3%. A.O. Hume, the founder of the Indian National Congress, Nauroji biograph Patel called the pioneer of the Indian nationalism. He made history when the located the concept of the Swaraj as the core of the political agenda. At massive public meeting held the Indian National Congress in 1906. The British government for its inattentions to the being in the country, he suggested that the matter could only be improved when the country was given the right to self-government or Swaraj. The rule of law, constitutionals, the common features of India, liberalism's right, history was desire to re-empower India people with personal freedom in face of the government of foreigners. Then the India Congress placed the demand of Swaraj total independence at the high table of politics. State interview, the laissez-faire, the state right to the Second World War and the whereas upheld institutions of the private property. India's believed that the state had introduced industries and agriculture to protect workers and the farmer from the colony capitalism. 1920, as the political to the socials resigned the Commonwealth of India Bill 1925, discussed in the chapter on the making of the constitutions. The principal adult franchises was scored in 1928. The importance of social right was in the resolutions and the fundamental right and economics and social change adopted by the Congress sessions in the Karachi in March 1931 in the after to the Kanpur communal right. The state was accepted to safeguard the interests of the industrial worker, ensure a living and the protections from the economics of the old age, sickness and unemployment. Women and children were given the protections. The state would own, control key industries and service, mineral resource, railway, waterway, shipping and other means of public transport. Also mandate was reform of land, tenure, rent and revenue. But when the time come to include the right to well-being in the constitutional social right where the non-justiciable sections of the DPSP directly principle are just guidelines. The Nation's Food Security Act 2013 under the UPA when the December 2005 the long awaited National Rural Employment Now that the conclude, this book are the simply and easy to understand. Through this one can the learn about value. I like this book because it is very interested with. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. Our respected chairperson and the head of our department of political science, Dr. Rajnikant Pandey sir, and all my friends. I am Khushi and today I am going to discuss about the book We the People and Our Constitution written by Neera Chandok. We the People and Our Constitution. Here we the people signifies that power rests in the hand of people and constitution signifies that it is the supreme law of India and no one is above the law. Now when we come to the book's perspective, at the time of independence, Indian people had decided that they would write their own destiny. हमारे फ्रीडम की लड़ाई कुछ आसान नहीं रही थी। आज़ादी के टाइम पे जब 1915 में महात्मा गांधी जब साउथ अफ्रीका से इंडिया वापस आए थे तो उन्होंने देखा था कि हमारे देश की कंडीशन अब पहले जैसी नहीं रही है जैसे वो बचपन में छोड़ के गए थे। हमारे देश पे ब्रिटिशर्स का शासन था और जो भी उनके खिलाफ जाता था या उनके खिलाफ रैली करता था उन्हें सालों तक जेल में बंद कर दिया जाता था। ब्रिटिशर्स का शासन हमारे देश पे उस टाइम इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि उस वक्त हमारा देश जो है वो वेल्थीएस्ट और इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट कंट्रीज़ में से एक था। हमें ब्रिटिशर्स से आज़ादी तो मिली पर हमें उसकी कुछ कीमत भी चुकानी पड़ी थी। हमारे देश के दो टुकड़े हो चुके थे विच इज़ इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान। 14 मिलियन पीपल थे। 14 मिलियन पीपल थे जिन्होंने अपना घर छोड़ दिया था और एक नई कंट्री का निर्माण हुआ था जो कि पाकिस्तान थी। पाकिस्तान बेसिकली एक मुस्लिम ओरिएंटेड कंट्री है जहाँ सिर्फ मुस्लिम लोग रह सकते हैं और और जब इंडियन नेशन का निर्माण हो रहा था तो कुछ लोगों ने कहा था कि इंडिया को भी पाकिस्तान की तरह ही एक हिंदू नेशन कंट्री बना देना चाहिए, जस्ट एज द मिरर इमेज ऑफ पाकिस्तान। बट जवाहरलाल नेहरू, जो हमारे इंडिया के फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे, उन्होंने कहा कि इंडिया एक सेक्युलर कंट्री है और यहाँ हर जाति धर्म के लोग रह सकते हैं। हम सभी जानते हैं कि प्रियम्बल को सोल ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कहा जाता है और हर धर्म का अपना अपना एक होली बुक होता है, पर कुछ लोगों का कहना है कि हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ही हमारा होली बुक है और हमारा प्रियम्बल ही हमारा प्रेयर है। Now here the question arises that what is constitution and why we need the constitution. Constitution वह मंजिल की सामूहिक कल्पना है जिस तक पहुंचने का देश संकल्प लेता है। There are some promises of our constitution which is justice, means fairness. People will not face discrimination in society because of their religion, caste and gender. Liberty or freedom. The freedom to live your life as you want. Equality means everyone is equal whether it is man or woman, rich or poor. Fraternity means brotherhood. Our constitution uses a very beautiful word which is derived from Sanskrit, which is bandhutva to describe fraternity. Now why we need the constitution? We need the constitution to protect individual rights, to uphold the rule of law. It generates trust and coordination between the government, the citizens. जिस मोमेंट हमें यह रियलाइज़ हो जाएगा कि हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमारी पहचान है, उस समय हमारी पर्सपेक्टिव चेंज हो जाएंगे। द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया इज़ पीपल्स कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, और हम लोगों ने ही इसे, और जो भी लोग इसे ख़त्म करने या इसे बदलने की धमकी देते हैं, हमें उनके खिलाफ एकजुट होकर खड़े होना चाहिए टू शो आवर फ्रैटर्निटी विच मीन्स ब्रदरहुड। It's also important that it was Indians who actually wrote the constitution. Our constitution has given us the right to equality before law, which is an important right for a supremely unequal country. At the time of making of Indian constitution, Dr. Sachidanand Sinha was the chairman of Constituent Assembly and Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the chairman of drafting committee of the constitution. The constitution clearly stated that all power of government and all authority, legislative, judiciary and executive are derived from the people. The Constituent Assembly has 292 members from Indian provinces and 93 members from the princely states. और आज़ादी के बाद हमें 1950 में हमारा अपना खुद का संविधान मिला था। Now the next topic is democracy and our political community. Democracy is a system in which the government of a country is elected by the people. अब्राहम लिंकन ने कहा था, a democratic government is of the people, for the people and by the people. हालांकि कुछ विचारशील नागरिक इस बात से सहमत होंगे कि किसी देश में डेमोक्रेसी की स्थिति सत्ता में बैठे लोगों के आत्मबधाई वाले बयानों से नहीं, बल्कि उन देश में पॉलिटिकल कम्युनिटी के प्रकार से मापी जाती है। भारतीय संविधान की विशेषता यह है कि यह अनुदेशात्मक और नियमित, विच इन इंग्लिश विच इज़ रेगुलर है। यह अनुदेशात्मक है क्योंकि यह डेमोक्रेसी के आदर्शों को संस्थागत बनाता है। इलेक्शंस आर एसेंशियल फॉर डेमोक्रेसी, फिर भी वे एक लोकतांत्रिक देश के जीवन में एक क्षण मात्र है। लोकतंत्र का सार मनुष्य के जीने योग्य जीवन की पूर्व शर्तें प्रदान करने का अधिकार है, स्वतंत्र और समान नागरिक के रूप में। जैसे जैसे हम इस विचार को विस्तृत करते हैं कि मानव होने का क्या अर्थ है, हमारे अधिकारों का दायरा भी बढ़ता जाता है। प्रत्येक अधिकार सरकार पर दावा करता है, प्रत्येक अधिकार जीने योग्य जीवन की अवधारणा को जोड़ता है। फंडामेंटल राइट्स के आर्टिकल 21 के तहत द राइट टू लाइफ एंड लिबर्टी को मूल रूप से नकारात्मक बताया गया, क्योंकि इसमें कहा गया था कि कानून द्वारा स्थापित प्रक्रिया के अलावा किसी भी व्यक्ति को उसके जीवन या व्यक्तिगत स्वतंत्रता से वंचित नहीं किया जाएगा। फिर बाद में इस आर्टिकल को सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा बचाया गया था। इट इज़ थ्रू अ सपोर्टिव सुप्रीम कोर्ट विच interprets the constitution creatively that we see how democracy is much more than elections. Democracy imposes an obligation on elected governments to secure to citizens their rights. The maker of the Constitution were aware that law alone could not consolidate a political community. Only when people were tied together by networks of mutual obligation could the traumas of the partition be held and people relate to each other on the basis of solidarity, in हिंदी which is एकजुटता. सॉलिडेटरी एक राजनीतिक गुण है जिसका आंतरिक मूल्य है. यह हमें स्वार्थ से पारस्परिक दायित्व के जाल के माध्यम से दूसरों के साथ हमारे जुड़ाव की पहचान की ओर बढ़ाने की अनुमति देता है. Now, the next topic is secularism. Every society is troubled by social divides based on religion, caste, race. India since independence has been a secular state. It can be defined as treating every religion equally and providing equal facility. Secularism contributes to normative constitutions principles, but it is not a stand-alone concept. It is a part of the democratic imaginary. If Article 14 stabilized democracy between citizens, secularism stabilized equality between religious groups. Now there is another topic which is universal adult franchise. It grants the right to vote to all adult citizens irrespective of their gender, race, social status, wealth or any such criteria with a few expectations. The preamble first talks of the kind of country India will be. It will be sovereign, democratic and republic. India became the first of the newly independent countries to give every person, man or woman, or transgender, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, exactly equal political powers to choose their rulers. One person, one vote. In Western democracies, for a long time, only white men with wealth enjoyed the right to vote. Women had to fight long for an equal right to vote. In the United States of America, for instance, women got the right to vote only in 1920 and African Americans only in 1965. In Australia, Aboriginal Australians didn't get the right to vote until 1962. For a society that would not allow the lower caste to step inside schools and temples, to possess land and to live with dignity, for a society that would not allow some women even the chance to be born, let alone to own and inherit property and to work shoulder to shoulder with men, for their society to resolve to ensure the same and equal right to vote for every person. Not the end of the road was a truly iridescent beginning to the great adventure of building a new nation. Now we the people. The Indian Constitution institutionalized the concepts and the objectives of democracy, the fundamentals which are commonly held and have been accepted by the people. We the people denotes that people of India are the ultimate leader and the main rulers of the main power. Now I am finishing my presentation with the line that without we there can be no I.
Okay, so good discussion on Neeraj Chandoo.